know.
I always like when we start with a laugh.
It's the best way to start, really. And you know what's better than starting with a laugh?
Having all three of us.
Well, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
That's the,
Cheers.
that's,
This is cheers to you, Daniel.
I was not about to
appreciate
suggest that the best that
So this is
even
a
better
nice
than you was having a brand new
odd
bottle of
bag.
rum.
Is a single malt Scotch 10 year.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it has nothing on the Lagavulin 16 year, but
Yeah, Daniel, you've missed Andrew's newest life goal of
to try
becoming
all of the scotches.
a fine whiskey Scotch connoisseur.
Yes. So that actually goes right into my announcement, but I will save it for just a moment here. Hi to everybody who is watching and or listening. You are listening to the Black Tower podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast, hosted by three of the taintiest of gentlemen who are currently getting Mo and Mo tainty. I am one of your fun and exciting and sometimes a little too much hosts. Daniel, you're Amin Hail.
Oh,
I'm here.
I'm
here fucking tired as shit, far too busy at work. This is bullshit by Jean Mayo. Probably too much language that early on in a YouTube video.
Nah, it's fine.
We'll just
It's all right, Susan.
layer in a series of
Can't remember your
things.
last name. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
But it's
You got
okay,
a lot
Susan.
more
You're
to worry
still
about on your
welcome
platform than me saying bullshit. That
here. Yeah, Susan, you're welcome. You're among friends, I promise.
How about the same Susan?
And I am Josh,
Probably.
also known as the Traveling Mahale. Me and Andrew were good buddies, and he just gateways me everywhere. I'm all over the world, baby. Worldwide.
All right,
Soroban
Pitbull.
Mahale.
How about you calm down, Mr.
I
305?
will do no such thing, sir.
Oh,
So,
Hey, guys.
it really? It has
how's
nothing
let's-
on the peachiness of the odd bag, my good sir.
So first off and foremost, I want to check in with everybody. How's everybody doing? I've been gone for a while in a move up to the land of always raining.
We
And so
missed
far,
you,
it has
sir.
not disappointed. It has absolutely been cloudy and raining just about every day we've been here.
Twilight Bill. There you
I
go.
love it.
Is Krista Stewart as emotionless in person as she is on screen?
I am not in Forks, so I wouldn't know, but
Yeah.
probably.
Just like all of Seattle is just Seattle and Forks. Illinois is like only Chicago. It's all the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Chicago and corn. That's it.
Sure. Why not?
But no, how are
not?
you guys?
Oh, good. Things are good.
Yeah.
Things are busy. Things are busy, but things are good.
I hear
Yeah.
you're going on another vacation, Josh.
So
Where are we going?
normally
Where is this
these
cruise?
vacations are spread out to reasonable amounts of time. But because COVID is like a vacation accordion, it moved all of my vacations down. And then the companies after a while were like, okay, no, for real, you either need to go on vacation or not. And so we had 2 in a row that were like non-refundable, and this is our last chance to use them. And I barely had enough PTO to cover both. So we're going on a cruise. This one's going to be loading out of Chile, and we're
Ooh.
going down to Antarctica.
So you're gonna be cold as balls, is what you're saying.
Yep, we're going to see penguins, and we're going to and we're going to mark off something I'm actually truly proud of. My daughters have been to all 7 continents after this cruise.
That's awesome. Nice.
And then as soon as I can make my ass over to Japan and down to Australia, then, they can't hear me in chat. Can't hear me in live chat.
That's awesome. I myself have only been to three continents.
Nice.
Yeah, because the Middle East is still what, technically Asia or Europe, rather.
Depends on which Middle East you go to.
UAE, I think, is still technically Europe. I love how he's like, which Middle East you go to.
Now, can you guys hear me in the live chat?
I mean, you're lighting up, so hopefully that
I
means
mean, I
that
am
yes.
lighting up. Hopefully that's
Yeah,
yes.
hopefully.
Wait,
Excellent.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
No, but there's the Middle.
Actually, no, I was in Asia because technically we called it Southwest Asia. So,
Whoa.
oh
Yeah,
wow,
see?
I have by technicality been to 4 continents.
You done did. It's called Shara. You were in Shara.
I was supposed to go to Australia one time when I was still in the Air
Shara.
Force, but somehow the United States Air Force could not get air travel there. I don't know
United
how.
States Air Force goes where we please. Thank you.
Apparently
Try
not
again.
whenever it comes to flying people from the Air National Guard to Australia. Apparently they say, you know what? There's just so much traffic in the sky. It's just bumper to bumper traffic in the sky.
Oh dear
It is
Lord.
what it is. It is what it is.
Indeed.
Anyway,
How about you, Daniel? You got a change of scenery. You have these beautiful doctor's office walls behind you.
Oh yeah.
Sexy and sterile.
I was trying to remember like what it reminded me of or think of that, but that is
That's
apt.
it.
The only missing like the colorful weird watercolor trim from like the fucking like 60, well, from like the 80s.
Yep. So yes,
Shut
I
up,
have
Siri.
had a change
Jeez.
of scenery. This is the section of my new bedroom that I am allowing you to see, mostly because it cuts off the door so that Jackie can actually come in and out without going ahead and needing to stop. Thanks, Mac. Love you too. Actually, I'm really okay with that. I'd be okay finding out that I couldn't make nothing.
And some of us pay for that kind of action.
Right, exactly. But yeah, so there's nothing on this wall yet. There will definitely be something on this wall at some point, and then that's my closet. So I don't really want to put anything on that because those doors open and close. You can kind of see when I turn the right way, my very fancy dresser here. It's very nice. But yeah, unfortunately, I did the large black cube entertainment center that used to be my backdrop that had a bunch of nerdy stuff on it is now in the other room. And Jackie's computer is in there, but my computer is in here. So right now I have the doctor's office walls. But yeah, Seattle's amazing. Seattle's very fun. I have slotted in very nicely into the downtown Seattle cheesecake, which is also very nice. Also, this is the announcement that I was very excited to make. A block from our new apartment, there is a bar called Rumba, and it has over 170 different kinds of rum.
Shit.
And they have this thing where they give you a map of the Caribbean and you drink your way through the Caribbean. And I am so excited to do it because I absolutely want to rum my way through the Caribbean.
Oh, my taste.
Nice.
Yep. I thought you guys might enjoy that.
I need you to make a TikTok video of you just wandering around that place. The people need to see.
I completely agree. Get ready for TikTok Mondays, guys, and it's going to have some sights and sounds of Seattle. And yes, Rob, I did move to Seattle. So we will figure out a time where you and I can get together and hang. Yeah, so I basically, as I'm sure some of you have heard already, Andrew is becoming a whiskey and scotch connoisseur, and I'm just gonna go become a rum connoisseur. So we'll just have like a number of different things covered.
That leaves the beer
Josh,
and mead to me.
Are you gonna? Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was
That
gonna
works.
say, do you want vodka,
'Cause-
gin, tequila? What do you want? Like,
Because whiskey is fun, because whiskey is like just an overarching term. I mean,
Correct.
there are straight whiskeys, but you
Mhm.
also have the subsections of scotch and brandy.
yeah,
And then of course all the different things that are there, like single malts and barrel aged. Well, there it's all has to be aged in a barrel to be a whiskey or scotch or bourbon. But then you have like the barrel straight, which is fun because I got some wild turkey rare breed barrel strength from the local store. And if you want the nice fun aspects of just enjoying like a whiskey style drink and picking out the flavors and stuff, it's really good. But if you also kind of want to feel the fuzzies, it's really good for that too. Because it's like
Everybody wants to feel the
56%
fuzzies.
ABV, so that's what 112 proof. And the funniest
Yeah.
thing is like the most recommended way to drink it is with a splash of water. I'm just like,
12.
so do
Jesus.
part of it's like whiskey syrup that you dilute yourself like you're supposed to do a Gatorade, but nobody does. So I mean, but it's really good. And I am hoping to either at or both JordanCon and WatCon. Because Daniel, while you were gone, you're also now not the only member of the Black Tower podcast with a lifetime membership for WatCon. So
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Andrew pulled
So-
the trigger.
Excellent.
Yep, and my tires have been staring at me saying you need to replace us ever since.
Because that is absolutely the way it goes. The second that you
Yeah.
spend large money on something, the rest of your life goes, hey, what about us?
But it is definitely my hope to like at JordanCon and or WatCon procure like 2 or 3 bottles, nothing crazy, nothing stupid expensive. And us be able to sit down and at least attempt to enjoy that together. I don't know if you guys will enjoy it as much as I do.
Sure. I
But,
think what would be really especially fun is if you get one bottle of like sort of your favorite or most shareable or whatever category it is that you want to pick, if you will, of the different ones that you've tried in the year. And then I will find a bottle of rum that I have tried at Rumba. And then Josh can find a mead or a beer that is, or make a mead or a beer,
I
whatever
do
floats your
have
boat.
a brand new brew station.
Yep. And so whatever floats your goat. And then we just sort of pick a night, and each different night of JordanCon and or WatCon, we sort of sit down and we enjoy the
A public
thing.
tasting. We need
I
to
think
start
that would
talking
be
to
really fun.
we need to start talking to organizers. Hey Andrew,
Yeah.
since you're an organizer at WatCon,
A very strong assumption. I don't know.
I'll go
Maybe by the
Rebecca
time
know that programming, one of our programs is BTP wine or BTP alcohol tasting.
well, I told Andrew he should jump on the TikTok and start doing a Scotch tastings and
Yeah.
impressions.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Hashtag
Well,
taint
we'll see.
tasting.
We'll see. I might do it. I mean,
Yeah.
because I
Don't
also
feel any
want to
pressure.
get into yeah, I also want to get
It is
into
fun.
blending, but that's
Ooh,
going to take
nice, yeah.
more to do it right the way that I
Always.
kind of want to do it. Luckily I don't have an empty bottle. I tossed that one away.
Oh,
For those of you that were curious, because I thought about it last time, the Ardbeg 10 is what made it into the decanter. So
That's a nice
because-
decanter. Damn.
yeah. Oh, it's heavy too. Now it's not my absolute favorite of what I have, but I'm also not pouring all of the Lagavulin out of its bottle. So yeah. Which the local liquor store does have a $400 bottle of Balvenie 32 year. If anybody wants to know what I want for Christmas or
so what we need
Valentine's Day or
is
Monday.
like 15 more Patreons, get a $400 bottle. I'm not kidding. Get a $400
I know,
bottle of scotch
but also
paid for by the channel that we can share at one of these events and do at one of these tastings.
That'd be fair. Yeah,
That's the dream. That's the goal right there. Yeah.
that's fair.
He who comes with the wine is in. He's like, done,
Yeah.
done, 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 done.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to make that happen. Anyway, one more quick announcement, and we'll get into the episode because it has been about 23 minutes that we're rambling, so we're on track.
You have
for
a fun
comments.
episode tonight too, though.
Yeah,
We do.
So not immediately right now because Josh is about to go on vacation. But so we can't guarantee it for January in the very first part or first week or so of February. But what you should start seeing, like you heard Daniel mention, TikTok Mondays from Black Tower Podcast, you should start seeing, especially if you're a Patreon, things becoming a bit more regular and more stuff from the Black Tower coming out. So we're trying to kind of increase what's coming out and be more regular about what's coming out. So as that stuff comes out and you see it both on TikTok and on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, that kind of thing, let us know what you think. If you think that there's anything we can improve or something that you're just like, this is stupid, you should stop. What's up, Daniel?
Oh no, Josh just said by a show of hands how many people are in Seattle, so I was showing my hand.
Oh,
I meant in the chat, you smart.
I know. Okay, I'm sorry, Josh. Let me be clear about something. Take a look at my face. Take a look at what's on my face. Was there
Mustache?
ever a chance in hell that I was not going to be a smarmy ass?
Fact.
All right. No, but seriously, you are absolutely correct. This is actually a fun episode. Let's go ahead and get into it. You are going to need to get a lot of spoilers out of the way because this one's going to be full of them. So we've mostly been talking alcohol and moves. But again, it is also really good to get checked in every once in a while because I love you.
You're
guys.
back. We got to figure out what's going on with everybody.
Right?
Guess who's
exactly.
back?
Also true.
Back again. I'm a come to hell's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Back streets back.
All right. That would have been a much better.
No,
Amen.
like-
Khan's back. All right. Okay.
that does.
Well, speaking of
work a little
friends,
bit better.
and bringing things back, we're going to bring back a good friend of ours for this episode. Spoiler warning.
Yes, spoiler condom all the way. Let's go.
Welcome to the Black Tower. This is your spoiler condom.
Yes.
If you have not read the complete works of Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time, books 1 to 14, and also New Spring, Big Bad Book of White Arts, and the companion, you are at risk of being spoiled. Spoilers come with side effects. These side effects may include headache, nausea, vomiting, death, dizziness, vaginal or penile eruptions and ejaculations, dysentery, cardiac arrhythmia, mild heart explosions, varicose veins, darkened stool, darkened souls, more vomiting, arthritis, hemorrhoids or diabetes, virginity, mild discomfort, vampirism or werewolfism, gender inequality for the whole planet, spontaneous dental hydroplosion, sugar highs, even more vomiting, or maybe just a mild rash. If you cannot deal with these side effects, please leave now for fear of spoilers. You have been warned.
I would have to say, Malkier Talk still holds the record for, I think, our most, at the moment, dramatic spoiler warning.
Oh yeah.
I would agree.
Also,
Totally
I
agree.
think it's the single longest one, which is helpful for the drama because he allows it to build, which is nice. But yeah. All right,
Anyway,
guys.
Daniel,
so-
since you're back, what are we talking about? Why don't
Yeah,
you
you tell us.
bring us bring
You're
us
the-
into this.
You're the super smart one with all the answers, knowing all the shit.
Yeah. In the doctor's office, we expect doctor level knowledge.
Okay, just because I'm in
Dr.
Seattle now
Mahale.
doesn't make me more shoddy. You know that, right?
Fair
We're gonna
enough.
pay for that one in the chat.
Oh, I know. So today we are actually going back to one of our sort of series adjacent things. It's not technically a series, but we have done a number of episodes on this, and that is metaphysics in the Wheel of Time. Basically, how do things work, or how are the theories based around it sort of summed up about something that is very hard to define, very controversial, a lot of different things where there are a lot of opinions, a lot of theories running around, and we're all not quite sure. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the thing. So we started this whole thing by going ahead and doing an episode on Ishamael, and then we ended up going completely off the rails about why Ishamael did what he did and
never
what
do that.
all of that meant and all of this different stuff. And so now we've gotten into a lot of other controversial, philosophical, theological, like all of these different kinds of things, and we call it metaphysics, partially because Robert Jordan himself was actually very into theology, philosophy, metaphysics, physics, just regular physics, things like that as well. And so we're just kind of diving into and taking as much of a big bite as we can out of some of the more mysterious things in the Wheel of Time. So today we are going to be doing that with the Horn of Valir.
We did that last week.
Oh, you motherfuckers.
I was like, wait, where's he going?
Like I thought about it, but I was like, wait, no, this could work for the topic for
because
tonight.
you never know. Listen, you never know what Daniel.
To be fair,
he's
like
got
that's not
words.
Daniel's fault at all. That is mine.
It's
I'm
on
the
the
keeper of the-
schedule.
I'm the keeper of the record, and I didn't update the color coordination for the schedule in enough time for it to be reasonable.
Hey,
However, it would be fantastic if somehow that intro to the topic made it into last week's episode, even though he was on vacation.
if
or
if
on
I
hiatus.
didn't already have that episode up for Patreon early access, I absolutely would just add that in. And just that whole diatribe was amazing.
Thank
It
you.
was.
I
It was much
appreciate
better
that.
than the intro I think we gave it.
I
during
think
the
you know what?
actual
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. If you just watch this, I want you to watch that, pause, go back to our last episode, start right after the credits, and be like, "Oh my god, Daniel gave such a great intro." Watch that episode again because it'll make it better, and then come back to this episode from where you paused, which is right here. Hey, Daniel, what are we talking about tonight?
All right, guys. So in the Wheel of Time universe, there is a lot of there are a lot of things where there are mystery and unknowns. And there's a place in the story where there is a treasure trove of knowledge that only a few very select people get to see and examine this information, these secrets, these mysteries. And it is guarded by some of the most zealous and intense people that you will ever meet in the Wheel of Time. And those are the Aes Sedai. But not just the Aes Sedai. We're talking the most secret of the most intense of the Brown Aja sisters and the Amerlin and Keeper themselves. This is the extra special knowledge in the White Tower that is classified top secret stuff. It is the 13th depository.
It's G14 classified.
Indeed. Because
Okay.
most people
Would
know
this-
about the first 12, but there's
Would this
a
be like-
secret 13.
Will this be like the White Towers version of a skiff?
Yes.
Yes.
Those of you don't know,
That's exactly
skiff-
what it is.
I would say that it is a
It'd
skiff.
be more than a skiff.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
It'd be like
a
the
skiff
presidential
within a
skiff.
skiff. Yeah.
There you go, like a presidential skiff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For those of you who don't know, SCIF stands for Secure Compartmentalized Information Facility. It's basically where the secret information is supposed to be stored in the U.S. government.
Yep.
So, yeah,
And-
keep that in mind.
yeah, and
not
access-
anywhere else. I'm not going to make
Access
further
to
comments about
any
it.
skiff, whether or not classified information is actively present in them, is highly controlled. Okay.
Yep.
In order to even have access to a skiff, you must have a security clearance
Yep.
and a reason to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because you can't just walk into a skiff and go, I'm going to go look around. You have to have paperwork that says, I have a reason to be here to look at a specific piece of information that is housed in this skiff. And again, while I'm sure that they are not like, you could probably come across some other related stuff. You can't just look all the way over in here for the thing that you're actually trying to find over here, because this is what you really wanted to look at. No, you are like, you gotta stay on task.
do you know what I absolutely love about the analogy of calling this a skiff is because if you want to see what I just laughed at, you should be a Patreon. You should be in the Patreon live chat because damn, that was good.
Because it's off the chain tonight.
Oh,
Like,
it's
seriously.
Well
really
done,
good.
sir. Well done. No, what I love about that analogy or that sort of comparison is that even other Aes Sedai in the White Tower, not only do they not know the contents of the 13th depository, they don't even know the 13th depository exists.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
It
there's
is
only supposed to
that
be
secret.
23. Yeah, there's only supposed to be, if I remember it, only 23, because there's 7 Ajas, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's only 23 Aes Sedai at a time that in general are supposed to know about it. That doesn't include any that have retired or stepped down.
Yes.
'cause
Because it
only-
should be.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
sitters, which is, yeah, so it should be the sitters, which is 3 per Aja,
Yeah.
the Keeper of the Chronicles, and the Amerlin seat.
Yep. Exactly.
And the interesting thing here is that, yeah, you've got, retired Aes Sedai. Well, I don't know. Anyway, the point is,
I mean, as long as they don't find the shit in like their old office or at their resort. I mean, they're probably
but
fine.
even retirees,
all the paperwork that Elida has in her palace
I
that never
have
got built.
permission to bring this paperwork to my palace. It's the greatest palace.
No. I declassified these documents with my mind.
Well, there's also the newer one, the Suwan's old Amerlin campaign office
There is no 13th
where they found stuff in the
depository.
13th depository.
The 13th, it's
Jesus
fake
Christ.
news. It's a myth. Doesn't exist.
The people looking for the 13th depository,
Stop
witch
looking
hunters.
at my personal
hoax.
palace for the 13th depository. I couldn't resist.
Now,
that
I wonder
one.
how many
Sorry.
people are going to
Yeah.
knee-jerk react type of comment to seeing that
yeah.
hat, only to finally read the hat and be like, oh, never mind.
Hey, yeah, read the hat. Okay, look.
Well, it's
I've
also
said it before. I'll say it again. Read
Yes.
the hat.
also it's interesting, this particular thing. It's funny to me that this is information, and even in the White Tower, Robert Jordan set up a system effectively like we have in the United States in some ways, and I'm sure that they have all over the world. I'm sure that we are not unique, but it's the one that I'm most familiar with, which is the information is housed in one place, and then all your weird unexplainable items are housed in another place where in here they have the White Tower. It's all in the White Tower, but it's also separated because they have the storerooms of Terangrial, which is your Area 51. And they just go, hey, don't fucking touch anything in there. We don't know what it does. Nobody can study it. Fuck out of there. If you need one and we know what it does, we'll check it out to you. And then maybe you can use it for a while. And then we have the 13th Depository, which is basically Ruidian. I mean, it's not, because it's totally like a different thing, if you will. It doesn't really show your own personal family history and the history of the nation, but it's absolutely the things where when you go become a sitter or a wise one or a clan chief kind of situation, or the Amerlin seat, the chief of chiefs, you go and you read the 13th Depository and find out the Aes Sedai are fucking crazy.
And find out who really killed Kennedy.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's in the 13th
exactly.
depository. It's like one of the remaining records from the first age. Yeah, no, it's
You
like it's
actually
literally the
botched
spot.
the Apollo mission and who killed fucking Kennedy.
It's literally like the spot where the source material for history is before all the bullshit and the propaganda.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because one of the things that I believe we get through Egwene,
Mhm.
because again, everybody's been spoiler warning. Egwene
Yeah.
becomes the fucking Amerlin. And guess who is like her right-hand person? Suan Sanche.
Yep.
Suan Sanche, who is infamous for having, if she lacked anything, it was never knowledge. She
Never.
Oh yeah.
seemed to know everything that was going on, everything that was happening. And part of what made Suan Sanchi so formidable as an Amerlin is she sat down and actually went through the 13th Depository. Not saying she read everything, but where some of the sitters and everybody else are like, oh, I'm not going to go down there. You know, there's black mold. I'm pretty sure there's COVID in the 13th. Like, no, I'm just not going to go down there. Suan
Have we
Sanche put on her.
injecting the 13th Depository with bleach.
Just inject some bleach onto the pages.
Sorry, continue.
But so Suan goes down and she actually goes through and she reads what's in the 13th Depository, and she even cautions Egwene when Egwene gets to the point where she has access to the 13th Depository as well, that even with the 13th Depository revealing so much information, and it's like front to back, left to right, top to bottom scandals, makes Watergate look like a fucking walk in the park level.
Well, that's
scandal.
what it is effectively. It's the all of the things that we've covered up as Aes Sedai, even from other Aes Sedai. Here you go. Here's all the scandals. Here's all the tea. And you're like, oh, okay.
But even Suan says, like, some of this, even though it's written out, you have to read between the lines because they're telling you a
Mhm.
truth, but it's
Yes.
still not exactly the truth.
In
So-
true Aes Sedai fashion.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that we learned very early on about the White Tower is that no opposing force has ever reached the White Tower.
No,
Never.
not even Arthur Hawkwing with his grand
They've never-
armies.
They've never reached the walls. They've never breached the walls. They've never touched the tower. Blah blah blah. And then we find out about how Trollocs and Dreadlords actually plundered and burned part of the White Tower themselves.
Oh,
Sounds
yeah.
a little War of 1812-y to me.
Oh, well played.
And
But did
the
they
armies-
salt Tarvalon in the process?
I don't think so. Close.
What
Well,
about
actually,
North Harbor?
that
Did
is
they
now
find-
headcanon for what happened to the Ogier Groves. I know they still have them. Never mind.
Yeah, they have them at
Oh.
Tarvalon.
But not everywhere else.
Are you saying
Found
that
out that
everywhere
even,
else is Atlanta?
Sure. I guess. I don't know.
Uh,
Whichever answer gets me in less trouble with people on the
There,
internet.
there is a very impressive Ogier grove behind
my
the Crown
pants.
Plaza in Atlanta. So don't
That's
even give
true.
me that.
That's accurate.
That is true.
The Trollocs didn't get
Um,
to it.
We found out that armies made up of followers of the false dragon Yer Lawson. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. Made it to the White Tower. And we're also through Egwene, we think we're kind of watching like one of the first really like came to violent schisms in the White Tower with the splitting of the breaking of the tower. It is not. No, there's like
Not even
details of
close.
6 documented whole ass mutinies in the tower. And yeah, and in each case that there was a mutiny, not only did the Amerlin have to like resign and step down, but the entire hall had to resign and step down. And I am assuming that includes the keeper with them, since each keeper is chosen by the Amerlin as their main Amerlin. But it's like,
Yes.
holy shit. It's like, you know, it's like now that you've all been clearly shown through the story that these people that put themselves on this pedestal and high horse somehow at the same time, they are no less fucked up historically than anybody else in the Wheel
Well,
of Time's history.
Okay, but
Not saying they're more fucked up, but they're no less.
Yeah.
knowing this, and I'm about to do something that is rarely done here.
Don't you dare
Knowing
disagree. We
this-
have an image to uphold.
Oh, that's true.
Don't you dare defend the women of the White Tower.
Well,
No, go ahead and do it.
what would be the purpose of holding a literal archive of failures, secrets, scandals, black eyes, mud puddles? Like, what would be the point of keeping this? Now, normally, one would think it is better to burn that, let it go, and let everyone think that what happened was what you said what happened, so that you could paint yourself in the best light. But what would be the purpose of keeping this?
I mean, are you
I-
just the answer to the question there is, if everyone in your organization knows where you failed, they can avoid it in the future. Again,
Those
I'm not
who
saying
forget the past are destined to repeat it. Now,
Yep.
there is some information. This is going to sound very like sub-state elitist, but I need you to like just stick with me here. There is some information that should be controlled. Some. This is the part that sounds very sub-state elitist. There are things that do not need to be published widespread for everyone in the world to know. And I know every journalist out there right now is like, I'll fucking end you right now, bro. And you know what? Power to you. Freedom of
I
speech.
think
get
even
it.
if-
go for it.
I think even journalists that are actually worth their salt know that like actual homeland security things definitely need to be kept a secret.
At least for now, until that
Yeah.
information, while that information is in play and relevant.
Yes. Once all
I-
of the spies retire, go
I
ahead and
regress.
fucking tell us all who they are. I don't give a shit.
In the 13th depository, I think you can more accurately call this, instead of calling it a documentation of scandals, et cetera, failures, et cetera. I think you can call it a tutoring tool or a teaching tool to those who lead the most powerful organization in the world. Okay? Because who watches the Watchmen? Those who are in charge. In this case, Aes Sedai can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. There are places where they are less well received, absolutely, but they've got ways around that. The leaders of the Aes Sedai, the sitters, the Amerlin, and the Keeper of the Chronicles, they literally lead the world. Okay? They are the only ones who have access to this information, because they are the ones who need to know where we failed in the past, what mistakes we made in the past, and what lessons we need to learn from those mistakes in order to lead our people into the future in an efficient way.
I would agree with you if it wasn't so much for the fact that I believe that the people with access to this that have the authority to make the decisions to steer them clear of the failures seem to do quite the opposite.
Okay, I agree with you.
And I think the majority of that is because Suan, like, it is noted that it is remarkable that Suan dove into the 13th depository. It's like the rest of them were like, yeah, cool, I have access. But you know, it's fine. I don't want to see it. Yeah, it's fine. I don't, what I know now is better than what some old dusty books have, except for like I could see the brown Aja sitters going in there, obviously, because they're brown. But it seems like the majority of the sitters just kind of are like, I don't really need it. Because otherwise, how do you explain a tower that's a hull that is not more cautious of Elida's coup? They are not
Just for
cautious at all
starters.
about it. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a narrow margin that it passes, but there is no caution to it. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, I think I remember something vaguely in a book that this happened about it. I don't know. It's fine, probably fine, because it's not like the records in the 13th depository just say, hey, this random thing happened at some point in the past. Be cautious about it. It's a timeline of how things happen. I mean,
Yes.
I would wager, because part of the 13th depository is recording what happens in the rest of the world when the tower itself is split, when they're not at full strength. And I wonder how many of those times are happening, or at least some examples happen after they've had mutinies in the tower. So there should be more than a sufficient tale of caution.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to intent. And that's actually really the thing, because I made the comparison to Ruidian earlier, and I think it's a very apt one in a lot of ways. Because again, it really is the Aiel are told a story of where they came from and who they are and what they do from the moment they're born and all through their life. That is a truth that they still live by, and it's not absolutely a lie. But when you actually go to be in a position of power, either a wise one or a clan chief, you are forced in some ways to relive that through your ancestors, and that imprints itself onto you. And so all of the current leaders putting new leaders into power know what they are setting that person up for, and know that that person is going to come out of the other side of the crystal columns a different person with new knowledge and a vast change in their understanding of what their origins are, what their promises are, what their goals are, all of that different stuff.
Well, one of the things,
Whereas, sorry, real quick. Whereas with the Aes Sedai, it is voluntary. You are not sat down by the sitters who are already in power, and they say, all right, now that you are the junior sitter from the Yellow Aja, we're gonna learn you some shit. And you're gonna go ahead and know things that you didn't know before, and you're going to have a very different view of the White Tower, which is part of the reason that, again, it really is a catalog and an archive of all of the times that the White Tower is fucked up. Because, of course, the reason that the 13th depository is not available to everyone is because at some point and up until now, enough people in power decided that the less people knew about this, the better. And that is more about cover up than it is about only the leadership should know this because it'll help them lead. It's about propaganda. It's about cutting those things out of the histories because you're embarrassed about them. And of course, again, I do think that there is a certain amount of, hey, Amerlins, here are the cautionary tales of who came before you. Don't fuck up like they did, which is a little bit more of the, hey, leadership of the White Tower, know history so you don't repeat it. But it's definitely for everybody else. It's, you don't have to actually pay attention to that. You don't have to worry about that because the White Tower has always been strong and we're the best. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't really good people in the White Tower. There absolutely are. We have talked about them before. We have run into them a number of times through the story. But overall, I think we are all in agreement. And most people, I would say, are the White Tower as an organization, the White Tower as it stands, is corrupted. And how far that goes, or how deep that goes, or how bad it is, you can absolutely have a discussion about and argue about till the cows come home, but it is corrupted. And I think that part of that corruption is the propagandization of the White Tower, the cutting out all of the bad stuff to make yourself look better, rather than cutting out all of the bad stuff so that you can moralize the people who, or bring up morale in the White Tower, and then tell the leaders what's actually going on so that they can lead better. It's just the let's make ourselves look better.
So two things with that. One, you know, we have the cliche of Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. Great power. With great power comes great responsibility, which means, and I'm sorry, I say it a lot because it's actually true. I'm sorry, if you have great power and you don't do anything to help, sorry, you're culpable for things that you could have prevented. Sure. I will die on this hill. To tie that in to the 13th depository and the leadership of the White Tower, if you become a sitter, the keeper of the chronicles, or the, you know, light send the Amerlin seat herself, you now have
that's the Empress. Fuck.
You now have a responsibility to understand the information in the 13th depository. Now, Daniel, you said that the organization was corrupted. I would argue semantics here and say that it is more eroded than corrupted, because people shirking their responsibility of understanding, and people shirking their responsibilities in general, leads to poor leadership, which allows for for actions that fall outside of normal guidelines and operating procedures. So a good leader who understands context, who understands history, who understands where they've come from and where they're going, will inspire their people in the proper ways to make sure that they make the correct decisions. A poor leader doesn't think they need to understand where they've come from, and because will simply bark orders and say, you just, and maybe, I mean, there's even poor leaders who do understand, but they don't inspire in a way that is productive or constructive. And they say, you'll do it because I told you so. Look, we get it. You're in charge, or you think you're in charge. You tell us what to do. We're going to do it for so long, unless we understand that there's a good reason and we have faith and trust in our leadership to provide us with said good reason. And that is the responsibility of the leadership of the White Tower. Now, the reason I would say eroded rather than corrupted, and again, semantics, because the outcome is the same ultimately, is that you do have genuinely good people. You do have sitters who are good people who, and this is my sort of defending the White Tower moment, who have been so busy they've allowed themselves to shirk their responsibility in studying the information in the 13th depository. It's an easy mistake to make. And they can look at the situation and go, I've got the tools I need to handle the situation in front of me. But when you have the, I can't remember who said it, but there was someone who was talking about those who can see into the past accurately enough does have the tools to see into the future. And I'm paraphrasing. So when you Google
I've read
that
the
shit,
quote, yeah.
but those who understand the past well enough will be able to see the future, because the more things change, the more they stay the same. And the big failing on the part of the White Tower is that you have its leadership that does not familiarize themselves with the contents of the 13th depository. And some of them do, some of them absolutely do. And that is part of the conflict.
So
So,
really
couple
quick
things.
before you hop in, Andrew, I just want to really quick. I actually like the erosion thing for the good people, but I actually do want to throw out there that I actually do think overall it really is corruption, because you do have sort of the good people shirking and
You're
or
supposed to agree with me,
avoiding their
dickhead.
duties.
God.
But you also have the Black Aja actively undermining and corrupting. And again, some of them are sitters. Some of them have gotten up to the point of being sitters. And I don't think that they are not reading those things because I'll get to it eventually. I think they actually read them and go, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. The 13th depository is not a good read. You should just ignore it and just do what your heart tells you is right. And so again, I appreciate that, and I definitely think that there are, and that's why I said the thing about there are good people in the White Tower. I don't want to ever have us try and say that that's not true. But I do think that overall, if you have the good people being eroded and the bad people actively corrupting, that really you're pushing way further into corruption than you are of just generally not doing what you're supposed to. But again,
said it was semantics.
And I'm just going back to semantics. Sorry, Andrew, you had points and I want to hear them.
Andrew hit it.
We'll see if I'm able to remember all of them.
Fuck.
Because so many. You did cover one, because I was going to bring up the Black Aja thing. So kudos to that. First thing, so we know that the 13th depository can't be purely for the purposes of propaganda, because there's no point in putting out propaganda and keeping the accurate historical record. All that serves to do is be a vulnerability and a liability for you. So you destroy the original record. That's part of where you get to saying,
totally
like,
fair. Yeah.
you know, the victor will write history and then destroy the original things of history. You know, this is a very common practice throughout conquest. I mean, 300 made it famous, you know, that Xerxes said that he will burn every record of Sparta even existing and make it a death penalty to anyone that even speaks of it, just because he doesn't like people that have better abs than he does and better shields and better warriors, I guess. The other thing was, not only was I going to bring up the Black Aja's influence on the Hall and the Keepers and the Amerlin, I was also going to bring up the thing, I disagree. So I'm agreeing with Daniel on the Black Aja part. I'm disagreeing with, well, I could by extension disagreeing with Josh on that too. But I'm also disagreeing with Josh on the semantics part. It's more, it's not semantics, because the distinction of the vehicle is incredibly important, because there's a vast world of difference between being coerced out of acting correctly and being willfully negligent and ignorant. One comes with some degree of like understanding, and it's not necessarily entirely your fault, because if you don't know you're being manipulated, how can you really be held culpable for being manipulated? Now I agree, the end effect is still the same. It is a very, very much hamstringed White Tower. That being said, the fact that the 13th depository still exists and the Black Aja knows about it and has access to it as being sitters tells us two things. One, even the stuff that we find in the 13th depository that Suwan and Sanchi found has probably been heavily edited, heavily changed, heavily redacted, either to hide things that the Shadow doesn't want known or doesn't want the White Tower to have access to, and or to make the histories of the White Tower look worse than they might actually be in some cases.
Sure.
Secondly, the fact, again, that it still survives, just like the propaganda argument, means that the Black Aja feels they don't have to do anything about it. Means that they are so confident that the sitters and the keeper and the Amerlin are just so lazy and will not go and read anything here that they don't need to get rid of any of it. So alter it just in case somebody shows up, but leave it there. Now, there is something to be said. Leaving information that is inherently altered to be distrustful is sometimes more damaging than removing information. We used it to great effect in World War II. There was the infamous story of the deceased body with the plans for Normandy in a different day. And so Germany moved all their troops elsewhere, and the rest was history. But there's these context clues about it that they have to at least raise those questions, because it's got to be it's probably a mix of the two, but it's got to have some element at least of one or the other. Either they heavily edited so they no longer had to worry about anybody reading it, and even the scandals we're finding out are either made worse than they actually are, or heavily changed and redacted to make the shadow look better or removed from it, or they were just so confident that nobody was ever going to go down and look at this. Like, why would anybody?
Can I just say, I think it would be the most humorous about this, and is my current headcanon, that the very first Black Aja sister that actually got up to the level of sitter and went down and read the 13th Suppository, she read it cover to cover and sat there at the end, and she just finished the book, and she closes it slowly, and she sets it down, and she just goes, "Holy fuck, the White Tower's a mess. I don't have
and
to
they call
change
us the bad
shit."
guys. What the fuck?
No.
Right! Right! Yeah, no, listen here.
No, I just love the idea of her just setting down the book and being like, I don't have any edits. That's the worst way that this could have gone. I'm just gonna leave this totally out.
She just sits there and she's like, we say we're evil and do bad stuff. You guys just commit war crimes and human rights violations. What the fuck? At least people know we're gonna do bad shit.
Oh my god, wait, no, I love the idea of them getting down there and reading the first Black Aja sister and reading the 13th Suppository and going, somebody must have gotten to this before me, because this is horrible.
I am not the first.
And then just every Black Aja sister after that just getting to it and being like, I don't have to change shit. This is so bad.
You guys sure you need me here? Because they're already pretty fucked up. And the Dark Lord's
Well,
and
of course,
here's one of the kind of confusing things, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's all.
I'm changing the subject to another event in the 13th Depository.
Okay, I was just gonna
you're
say,
staying on topic. That's weird,
right? I was actually just gonna say,
I disagree.
Morshadi or someone, I think it was Morshadi, yeah, because he's the one putting the notes in.
Probably more shoddy.
Probably. Yes. So the 13th Depository is an allusion to the Archivio Segreto of the Vatican. And so I also sort of, again.
Oh yeah, the Pope's porn collection.
Right. Okay. Let me be very,
We're
very,
gonna
very,
let that joke
very,
die right there.
Yep. Resist.
Let me be very, very clear about something. I don't actually like people who get on religion just because it's religion.
Thank you.
There are lots of things that I don't like about religion. There are lots of things that I don't like about people who don't like religion. All y'all suck because we're all human, because we all suck. I mean, many of us try to be better than we do suck, but humans kind of suck. Anyway.
So you're not a fan of Logan Paul right now?
Oh, absolutely not. Fuck that guy.
I mean, I'm
really not usually a fan of Logan Paul or his brother, ever. But anyway,
I love how he just called out Scandal, someone for calling him out on a scandal, and was like, "How dare you say that I am using people's good nature for clickbait?" Or, "Oh no," he said, "You're using my misfortune for clickbait," and it's like, you faked
what have you
dead
done
body in a
right?
YouTube video for the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, rant over. Go ahead.
Hi.
Dave,
Anyway,
sorry.
all
Welcome
of
to
that
the Black
being
Tower
said,
podcast.
all of that being said, because I do want to throw that out there, I do have to say that there are some really amazing memes and or posts out there of people just generally being like, so fun fact, this is what the Vatican says about this thing, and this is what the Church of Satan says about this thing. Which one sounds better?
I will also say the 13th depository has librarians.
It does.
3 of them specifically.
Mhm.
Now, did
Oh,
you
I guess
know,
there's 26 people who have access to the 13th.
including librarians? Did you know?
Well, unless any of those librarians are the sitters for the Brown Aja, but whatever. Anyway, did I
you
know
know
what?
that all 3 of those librarians are Atha and Mir?
Yep.
Yep.
And that's one of the deals that they talk about cutting with the Athon Mir. It's a place they can go and hide out and not worry about potentially giving away more information.
So when we did our Brown Aja deep
They
dive,
are already
we
good
knew
at secrets.
that the Atha and Mir mostly chose Brown Aja, right? Hey,
Yes.
what are you
Yeah.
doing? Hey,
They are on me here. They
Baba
become
de
good
Boopy.
librarians.
I get a
They
gabagool.
We're gonna
No,
get so many Italian
we're-
comments being
I'm
like,
sorry,
"Eat
Italian
an
people. Hey,
entire
At least we're not
bushel
breaking
of
pasta.
dicks."
Okay, at least we're not breaking the pasta.
That is true. None of us have broken.
They'd be like, we're celebrating. Okay,
It's okay.
Anyway.
Chef Boyardee is better anyway.
Chef Boyardee is an American hero,
Gabagool.
and I will die on this hill.
Yeah, Chef Boyardee is absolutely American. Get the fuck out of here. We don't
Look, this is an interesting thing. Like, and I realize I'm getting into a whole other section that might be a Watt
Yeah.
Candy
Because
for
at least
a
the one I was going to do was
pre-recording.
still on the topic of events from the
Yeah.
Do the Aes Sedai kind of suspect the Athan Mir?
I
Which
don't
is
think so.
why they only allow librarians from the Athan Mir to maintain
Oh.
the 13th depository.
No, I think that's.
They
I
only
think
allow
you
brown
that a
are-
sisters to be the
coincidence?
librarians.
I think it's a coincidence. I actually absolutely think that the Aes Sedai do not suspect the Athan Mir, and that it is just a situation where those 3 particular librarians are just that good at what they do and have gotten the prestige in some ways of being the ones who actually watch over that depository. Not that the Aes Sedai have any suspicion, not suspicion. Words.
I like that
Suspicion.
word though.
Suspicion? I kind of like it as well, but that they actually have any suspicion, which is why they've now given them the basically secrets of the Aes Sedai to watch over. I absolutely think
thought.
that they don't. All right.
Hit the thought. Hit
First,
the thought.
This
hit
wasn't,
the
this wasn't my
and
original
then
one.
change the subject on to the event. Do the one and then the
Yeah.
other. Go.
Here's the thought. It is not a coincidence. It is a manipulation and strategy by the Athan Mir. Because who has more to gain from gaining access to the secrets of the White Tower than the people that feel they have the most to hide from the White Tower? If we own all the secrets, we can at least blackmail the White Tower into leaving the rest of the Athan Mir alone.
Sorry, yes. I was saying that it wasn't a manipulation from the one direction. I'm totally fine with it being a manipulation from the other direction, but I don't think it's the Aes Sedai having suspicion and therefore manipulating the Athan Mir. I think that it's entirely possible, as you just said, to be the other way around, that the Athan Mir have more to lose and therefore are wheedling their way into a situation where they have more leverage. That
The
I'm okay
Aes
with.
Sedai have begun to suspect our Windfinders releases the secrets.
Right? Yeah.
It's like
Anyway,
it's
sorry.
like a thread. It's like the thread of WikiLeaks. Like the Athan Mir are just snowed in for the White Tower.
Yep.
I mean,
All right. Andrew.
Anyway,
Other
the
event.
event I was
What
going to
you
talk about. It's we'll make it quick ish.
I mean, we got some time.
So
Because
one of the
your
things
wheel and
that
chill is at 6.
well, technically they want me there in
45
a couple
minutes.
Oh, okay. Then we'll wrap up soon. But
Wait.
go, new event, go.
One of the things that Gwen talks about is an Amerlin that was known as a failure, Sheehan.
Yes.
And she makes a comment to Suan, which I think starts a whole conversation about the 13th depository,
Mhm.
or at least one of their many conversations about how I will not be a failure like Sheehan. And it's, I believe, in response. Well, she might actually have known about the secret of Sheehan by then, because Sheehan's whole problem was she came in trying to rule the tower with an iron fist. Sounds
Mhm.
familiar.
Mhm.
And ultimately, the sitters just made a puppet out of her, and then the rest of the sisters are like, okay, this is fucky, and disposed a whole lot of them. It was just interesting that it still includes things of that nature from what happened. And this is one of the a situation where it's an example of a good cautionary tale for a new Amerlin. Though she doesn't retain the title for long. Does Egwene now hold the title for shortest Amerlin? No, I think the
Yes.
shortest was like a month.
Oh,
I think the
She
shortest
was
Amerlin to reign
close.
was like a month. But she's like number 2
She's
or 3.
top
Second.
10. Yeah.
second. Yeah. Well, you know, the
Also-
interesting thing is because we would absolutely say that Elida and her reign as Amerlin would be absolutely documented, but
Yeah.
by whom? And
What do you mean?
also, Alviarin was pretty good at keeping the secrets, and Elida didn't tell anybody about Alviarin because she didn't want to lose face. Again, another result of not learning the lessons of the 13th depository. How did that interaction get documented? It absolutely needs to be documented. How would that have gotten documented?
Well, but the other question or the other thing here is this, I think, is a perfect example in a lot of ways of what would be left in the 13th depository. If you're Black Aja and you're a sitter and you want the most possible leeway to go ahead and do all of the things that you want to do and erode as much as possible and corrupt as much as possible and have the freedom to get away with as much as you can do, what's one of the best ways to do that? Convince every Amerlin that ever comes into power that their worst option is to go ahead and rule with an iron fist and to try and take over the tower and micromanage everybody and watch over everybody and, you know, do this, that, and the other thing. I really feel like, again, this is one of those opportunities where we were talking about earlier that somebody in the Black Aja went, Sheehan, great, keep that one in, or make it worse, or like tell the cautionary tale of this Amerlin who did this thing that we don't want done. And
By
so
the way,
yeah,
I was wrong. Egwene was more like Snowden than the Athonmere, because she did spill the beans to Yana
Yes.
and also.
well,
Yes.
but again, I would say that the Athonmere, I feel like, are Snowden capable. That's really what it is, because they never had to use it. Because I think that the Aes Sedai never really suspected the Athonmere. But the second they did, the second they were like, hey, we're going to go confront the sea folk about the fact that, you know, they can channel way more than we apparently think. They go,
didn't the sitters
are
know,
you?
though?
Are you going to go fucking do that? Because if you do that, we'll tell the whole world about all these shitty things in the depository.
Well, wasn't that kind of one of the things that, like, this was known, like, just like the kin were known to the sitters and the Amerlin and the keeper because of the 13th. Weren't the Athonmere Windfinders known only to the 13th depository as well?
No, there's nothing in there about the Athonmere.
The keepers would know, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would be documented. Actually, if the keepers of the 13th depository were all Athonmere, that would make
It's
sense that
probably
any
something that would have been
documentation
cut.
would have been. So even in the 13th depository, you've got redacted information.
Well, yeah, as we already mentioned, I mean, again, it's one of the best tools that the Black Aja has to go ahead and say, these are the things we want in there. These are the things we don't want in there. These are the things we can add to make this seem worse or to convince Amerlins to not do certain things or blah blah blah. So yeah, I think it's a fascinating tool, and these are sort of going to be my final thoughts. I think that the 13th depository is such a fascinating tool, both for good and for bad. Because again, you have a situation where you have the secrets of the White Tower, and that is very, very valuable to the White Tower to keep their secrets secret and make sure that to the rest of the world, they keep up this facade of being the most powerful organization the world has ever known and have as few problems as possible from the day of their inception and all of this different stuff. No, again, people see a certain amount through that, and they definitely know that the White Tower is not necessarily all it's cracked up to be. But at the same time, they don't know how bad it's been in the past. They don't know what problems they've really had. And anything that they actually just put out there is rumor and conjecture, because the histories are just gone. And so definitely the 13th depository is a valuable tool to the Aes Sedai, but it's also such a valuable tool to people trying to screw with the Aes Sedai. Because the second that someone who has nefarious purposes gets access to those histories, they are all now suspect. All of them. And again, we as audience, I've always taken it more literally that like the 13th depository was actually not very changed. After this conversation, I'm changing my view on that, which again is one of the wonderful things about this podcast and the living story that is the Wheel of Time.
You mean we don't just agree on everything all the time and stay completely stagnant in our beliefs and understandings about the Wheel of Time?
Indeed.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about Moraine. Moraine figured it out before
about
like
the
Elaine.
Windfinders?
Of course, Moraine
before
figured
Elaine.
it out.
So that's what I was
Moraine
saying.
is also one of
And
the
if
most
Moraine knew, then
worldly
Suan
fucking
knew.
Aes Sedai. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's one of those things like I agree with He Comes with the Wine. If Moraine knew, then there's a very, very high probability that Suan knew.
Yeah.
But like, no,
anyway.
I haven't found the Dragon Reborn, but did you know the Windfinders can channel?
Look over
And they're
there.
really fucking good.
Yeah.
Smoke bomb.
But yeah, so my thought about this is it's a really, really cool device that Robert Jordan put into his story that, again, I feel is just one of those wonderful moments where you get just a nice info dump of things that you didn't know about, and a nice set of fun little things like the fact that all of the librarians who keep the 13th depository are Othan Mier. They're these fun little Easter eggs that you get through the story that unless you're paying attention, you miss, or unless you're on a reread, you missed, or whatever. And it's really fun when you find these tools that the author uses to tell you something that is not on the surface. And it's, again, just going to say it one more time. I'm not going to say it one more time. I'm going to still say it 1,000 more times, but once more this episode. That's why this story lives on. Robert Jordan was a master of throwing Easter eggs at you and hoping that you would catch enough of them to enjoy the egg on your face. And there were so many times reading this this story the first time where I connected things and I felt brilliant, and then I would reread and I would catch so many more things that I would think the first time I read this story I was a fucking idiot, and like all of this different stuff. And that is what makes a living story, and that's what makes a lasting story. And that is one of the reasons that we have a podcast and this story lives on and people love it, and there's a TV show and all of that good stuff. That's my final thoughts. 13th depository is a great tool.
Depository with a D.
Depository, yes.
Because I don't know if it's my earbuds, but I felt like I kept hearing an S, which is funny because that's what I do half the time. So my first final thought is the fact, oh wait, no, Josh is back. So Josh, what are your final thoughts? Because I know you got to say bye here very, very soon.
Yes, sorry, I did jump into that early. I probably should have let Josh go first, but go now. It's all you. It's the Josh show.
Okay, so here's the thing. The 13th depository is if anybody has kids and has been forced to watch Moana 100 million times, they know that they sail
It's the waterfall.
by knowing where they come from. You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. So the ultimate leadership doesn't understand where they're going if they don't understand where they're coming from. So for any of you who are chosen to become a sitter and or keeper of the chronicles and or Amaryllis, please take your responsibility and study the 13th depository. And any of those of you in the world who are put in leadership positions, please take your responsibility seriously and understand the history of that position. And I'm going to jump out.
Short, sweet, and to the point. I like
How
it.
do I jump out without ending this whole thing?
Oh,
Do
well,
I
I can
just
make this really
close?
quick so we can wrap up super quick.
Okay.
Real quick, final thoughts. 13th depository. I appreciate wat.fandom.com trying to back me up on the records, possibly having truth about the Windfinders because of the Windfinders always making their way there or frequently doing so. It's what I think it would make sense, but also it also makes sense that nothing makes sense. Because there's definitely some things about the 13th deposit that make no fucking sense. If it's an embarrassment to your organization, why keep it in the first place? If it's a cautionary tale, why make it so secured down to people that are most prone to just sit back on their laurels and do no actual research? I don't know. It's probably in the next 13th depository is yet another failing of the White Tower. Who the hell knows? I don't. No one does, except for maybe Harriet and Maria and Michael Livingston and a ton of other people. Anyway,
Team Jordan. Hashtag
I-
Team Jordan.
I do like it as a reference to the Vatican, the legend of the Vatican secret records or the facts of the Vatican secret records. I do like it as a plot device because it does allow for a place where, well, nobody knows this because it's actually a secret hidden here. I think it's a cool little tidbit. I think it's a little nod, and it gives us that little bit of a conspiracy theorist enjoyment in the Wheel of Time. And I am not really surprised that apparently I would guess that most of the stuff that's important, that's relevant to current day, that's in there, Moraine figures out on her own. So I mean, it's Moraine. Who's can't hide anything from Moraine until you can.
Including your
that's all
flowing,
I have
wonderful,
to say.
knuckleable mustaches.
Jesus.
Okay.
And your matching
Thanks
mustache.
so much
happy
for
trail.
being here. Thank you so much for enjoying this week's dose of taint. We hope that you leave here just a little bit more insane than you were when you first came. And from all of us here at the Black Tower, I have been your Sorovan Mahale Josh.
I've been your Bajan Mahale Andrew.
And I have been your Amin Khan Mahale Daniel. And from all of us here at the Black Tower podcast, we hope that you are having a wonderful morning wherever it is and you are and whatever it is that you are doing. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening.
Always running the show.